todos y bienvenido a la podcast de animación. As you can tell, I am pretty hyped up on Coco, and chances are, if you have seen the movie, then you could definitely tell why I am just so bursting with energy, and I just feel like I want to have so much fun right now. Oh, such a good movie. You definitely gotta go see it if you haven't. Anyways, this right over here is a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by FilmBook. My name, of course, is Matt Brune, but some of you may know me as AniMat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and AniMat's reviews. Now, if this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, well, sit tight and relax because this is going to be a big one. You came in just in time for some crazy stories right over here. In fact, in this episode, I'm going to start things off by looking into Warner Brothers' next original animated feature known as Smallfoot. Then afterwards, we will be talking a little bit about the next Pixar film that's going to be coming up, which is the highly anticipated The Incredibles 2. Then afterwards, we will take a moment to look into the Annie Awards, and they have officially announced what's going to be among the Juried Awards, like who are going to be the recipients there. Then afterwards, we will be talking about the animated film Klaus, and final frickin' it's going to have a release date. And then finally, we will be going through a very tough AniMat's Pick of the Week. You will understand why when I get there. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then all you have to do is head on down to FilmBook, which is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. And so, for our first story right over here, we're going to be going into Warner Brothers. Now, as we have seen this year, they really were hyped up on Lego movies. Since they couldn't immediately release the Lego Movie 2, they would give us some things on the side. We highly enjoyed the Lego Batman movie, but with the Lego Ninjago movie, maybe not so much. But they can't just rely on Lego movies in general. They gotta do something a little bit more. And so, they did bring up some original animated features, including Storks, and they did actually bring up another one. Thanks to the help of Sergio Pablos, the co-creator of Despicable Me, they thought up of a brand new original animated film called Smallfoot. And not only did they reveal the look of the characters individually, but they also brought out a new trailer for it, or just a teaser trailer. And it doesn't necessarily explain the story itself, but it really does try to sell on just the concept of it. Because the big thing with Smallfoot is that it takes the legend of like Bigfoot or Yeti or the Abominable Snowman or Sasquatch, like those types of creatures, and they pretty much flip it upside down, where now the main characters that we look into are the Yetis, in this case, where they have a legend regarding humans, which they call Smallfoots. And with those, it's like they don't know if they exist, but then suddenly they'll encounter a human, and then suddenly, holy crap, they actually do exist. So that's basically the main plot, well, not the main plot, but just the main concept of this entire movie. And surprisingly enough, not only did they fully announce the entire cast of it and showed a trailer, but they also showed what these characters look like individually. And speaking of the cast, allow me to go and give you the list of the cast that's going to be appearing in this movie. So we already know some of them, like we know Channing Tatum is going to be the main character, known as Migo. I believe we already know that Zendaya is going to be in there, playing a girl Yeti called Michi. And then there's another one, Gina Rodriguez, I believe. She's going to be another female Yeti known as Kolka. But some of the other ones, it will include James Corden as Percy, which is going to be the main human of this movie. There's also going to be Common, that's going to be Stonekeeper. We have LeBron James, funny enough. Yeah, like suddenly, like first Kobe Bryant with Glenn Keane and now LeBron James. I mean, suddenly we're suddenly getting an invasion of basketball players coming into animation. So anyways, LeBron James is going to be playing Gwanji. we got Danny DeVito playing a Danny DeVito Yeti, or anyway, the character's name is gonna be Dorgal, but when you look at the character, it's like, yep, that's a Danny DeVito Yeti, alright, just like with a giant mustache. Let's see, there's also Yara Shahidi, who's going to be playing a female human named Brenda. There's also Eli Henry, that's gonna play Flem, and Jimmy Tatro as Thorpe. So that's pretty much all that we know so far. So now we got a lot more info. We know what the characters look like, we know the cast, and we know the tone coming from this trailer. But I want to take this moment to actually go and discuss mainly about the character designs. Because I'm going to be very honest with you guys. When I first looked at the Channing Tatum Yeti with Migo, when I first saw him, I swear I thought they announced a brand new character for Hotel Transylvania 3. Because that's what it exactly looks like. Like, you see the facial structures, you see the very cartoony smile and the eyes, and it looks like something that would be straight out of a cartoony animated feature, just like Hotel Transylvania 3. And I mean, not too long ago, they did release the first trailer for Hotel Transylvania 3, so like, we would expect, oh, maybe Sony is just announcing a little bit more stuff with it. And I mean, like, we got a monster right over here, and I mean, they don't have a prominent Yeti character just yet, so it wouldn't be surprising if Channing Tatum would suddenly voice a Yeti for Hotel Transylvania 3, but no, this is actually for godforsaken Warner Brothers. And, oh my god, when looking into the designs, there's just something that seriously does bother me. And I don't mean just bother me, but this is honestly something that just irritates me to the core, because it's just something that seems so small, something that seems like it's so easy to fix, and yet it completely ruins the entire design, and it's the freaking eyes. I hate the eyes on all these characters. Because the thing is, I guess this is the entire style of the movie, like the entire design, where each of their eyes, both for the Yetis and for the humans, like, not only are they like really wide ovals, like really skinny ovals, but they're like so close to each other. They're like just a few centimeters away from actually touching each other. Like, I actually did a little joke on social media, like showing all the different characters that are going to be in Smallfoot. And I decided as a gag where I would put in also an early character from Family Guy where, like, Peter was talking to some kind of, like, mechanic or someone to fix up their pool, and, like, Peter was just telling him, your eyes are just too close together. And, I mean, I just did that as a joke, but, like, the way that his eyes are exaggeratingly close together and the way that guy was designed, it looks no different than what we're getting right over here. It's honestly so messed up. Especially, it makes it even worse when you look at the human characters like Percy. It's like, you know, everything else is fine. It's just like the eyes are so weirdly close together and just so oddly misshapen. It's just messed up. I mean, for God's sakes, am I the only one right over here that thinks that it's not hard to draw two freaking circles? I mean, what the fridge is wrong with two circles? Just put that as the eyes, you know, just like widen those eyes a little bit, spread them apart, and they would look good. I don't know why you have to make them so exaggeratingly close together. I mean, just what's the point of it? I mean, if you're an artist, or if you're an animator, or if you like to draw, then you know very well that if there's one thing you should not screw up, it's the eyes. Because the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And if you make some terrible looking eyes, then everything else is ruined. And I think this is the greatest example of that right over here. And the reason why I'm just so mad about these designs is because literally everything else about the designs of these characters, they're great. They actually look pretty good. I mean, I like the designs, I like the variants on the different Yetis, and the people don't look, they don't look so bad. They look pretty fine. It's just the freaking eyes. That's the one thing that's just so messed up, and what's ruining this entire design and this entire style. It doesn't freaking work. And by the way, just going back to the Hotel Transylvania 3 thing with their designs right over here, I know that there are a lot of people who would comment like, oh, this looks like something that would come, like something that would come straight out of a Sony film. This would be like if Sony Animation would be making this. Well, if you do say that, technically you would not be entirely wrong, because what Warner Brothers is doing with Smallfoot is exactly like how they produced Storks, where even though Warner Animation Group is going to be the distributors of this, it's actually going to be Sony Pictures Imageworks that's going to be making the animation for this, which is why I guess like they're going to be sticking with the same subtle cartoony style like they did before with Storks, So it's pretty much like they got a system going on, and they felt like it worked all right with Storks, so they want to do it again with Smallfoot. And yeah, it's just like, it's noticeable that I guess it is coming from Sony. It has that Sony touch, but it's just those freaking eyes. I mean, for God's sakes, like, to the artists and animators working on Smallfoot, like, can you just take a moment to actually fix up those eyes? I mean, that would fix this movie entirely, or at least fix this up so far. Just like, try to fix things up a little bit. Like I said before, just spread them apart a little bit, make them rounder, and you'll have a pretty good design. You'll have something that looks enjoyable, that looks likable, that looks appealing. Because the thing is that, that's all you have to do with this. Just, why do you have to mess up the eyes? Out of all the things in this movie, out of all the attributes on the characters, why do you have to mess up the eyes so bad? It's such a small design, but such an important design at the same time. However, that's not to say that I think that Smallfoot is going to suck. I do not think that at all, because there is still that other possibility, and, there's actually a good possibility as well, that Smallfoot might turn out to be enjoyable. If it is taking the same steps as Storks, then we might actually have a pretty fun movie. For me personally, I feel like I enjoyed Storks. That was a fun movie. I like the animation, I like the humor in there. Definitely not the best movie I've seen of 2016, but, it was still fun. It had its great moments. And maybe the same thing could turn out to be the same with Smallfoot. And honestly, I do like the concept, that is something that you can think up that can have a lot of great possibilities, and maybe Warner Brothers could actually find a way to go in there as well, to bring up some likable characters, to have fun with the story, to craft the world where the Yetis live, like on top of Mount Everest or something like that. So maybe it can work out. But there is honestly one little thing that I am very mixed about, and it could go either way. It's the inclusion of having James Corden in this movie. Like I said before, he is playing the main human in this movie called Percy. And especially with this year, I don't know about you guys, but I think Sony Animation really did ruin my taste for James Corden. Like, he did a lot of slip-ups this year where he shows that he kind of has a lot of poor taste, but it's especially with the Sony films that it really did ruin it for me. Like, his performance as High Five in the Emoji Movie, and also, what else? Oh yeah, like the trailers of Peter Rabbit, which looks like pure freaking garbage, by the way. It's just that, honestly, I don't trust having James Corden in a movie. But then again, there could be a possibility that even that aspect could actually turn out to be good. because it kind of reminds me in a similar fashion of having Andy Samberg. Because the thing is, when Andy Samberg was in a Sony animation film, or when he's in several Sony animation films, he is freaking unbearable. In fact, even before Sony Animation, like, a lot of the movies that he's in is just freaking horrible. He is intolerable in those films. Rather it be with Space Chimps, where he plays that jerk chimpanzee, or he's in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where he's going, I'm a goofy idiot, quite literally, in fact. That's how you summarize the character in one big shot. Or he would play Johnny in Hotel Transylvania. Literally the dumbest and worst thing to ever come out of the Hotel Transylvania movies. Honestly, I would actually be a lot more generous to the film franchise if that guy just doesn't freaking exist. So, yeah. Honestly, Andy Samberg is just horrible and intolerable if you put him in an animated feature. You don't get the Lonely Island Andy Samberg, you get the douchebag Andy Samberg that's just not funny and you just want to punch him in the face. However, then came Storks, where he would play the main character Junior, and I was honestly really surprised over the fact that not only was he tolerable, but he was actually good. It's like, for some reason, now he is in front of competent and, like, directors that actually do know what they're doing, and he actually does give out a pretty solid performance there. So there could be a chance that even Warner Brothers could actually take someone like James Corden and actually bring out an enjoyable performance with Percy in Bigfoot. Either that, or maybe we'll just ultimately learn that they should never put James Corden in a movie again, because every movie that he's in would just honestly damage his career, like, to just make it worse and worse and worse for the guy. I mean, seriously, like, this could be a make or break deal to know if we should stop putting James Corden in movies or not. Like, who knows? But, again, I want to be positive to this movie. I can see that there is a good chance that it could actually turn out to be a fun and enjoyable film, and I do like the concept. But again, the frickin' eyes. Just fix those frickin' eyes. Is it so hard to ask? Is it so hard to just draw two frickin' circles? I mean, seriously, just fix those stupid things up. However, if you guys are interested in checking out Smallfoot, then all you have to do is just wait until September 14th, 2018 for the movie's release. Okay, so for our next story right over here, we're going to be jumping into Pixar right now. And like I said at the beginning, I just saw Coco, and it definitely was a fantastic film. I know that everybody had a little bit of their doubts. They don't know how it would turn out, or if it's just cultural appropriation, which would have been a really bad move for Pixar, but ultimately, it turned out to be a fantastic animated feature. I absolutely loved it, and I think we can all agree, it's pretty much Pixar's best animated feature since Inside Out. It really was fantastic, and it really was such an emotional film. I had to legitimately fight back some tears right at the end of the movie. You would understand why. But the hype for Pixar right now, it is far from over, because what we have ahead of us is undoubtedly the most anticipated animated sequel of all time. I honestly cannot think of any other sequel that people have been waiting for years, more than a decade even, to see the grand return of these characters. And I am, of course, talking about The Incredibles 2, which is now finally happening, and we are getting closer and closer to actually see it get made. And with the release of Coco, Pixar even gave us a trailer, a teaser trailer, less than a minute, of what's going to be in store for The Incredibles 2. And in this one right over here, they decided that the main focus is going to be on Jack Jack, where he starts out just, using his powers without even thinking, where we see him go through walls, and then he just shoots out a laser, ultimately creating the logo for The Incredibles 2. Which, honestly, that's the moment where everybody is freaking out. Like, you just hear the title, it's like, da, 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 and everybody is just going there like, ah! And then, right afterwards, we see a little clip of Bob, the father of The Incredibles, where he just discovers that Jack Jack actually has powers, and he is so excited for it. Like, he just picks him up and going like, you have powers! And then suddenly we got a cute little gag where Jack Jack, he hiccups, and then suddenly his powers would go crazy. Like, suddenly thunderbolts would come out of him, and suddenly he shoots out a laser, which makes a little hole in Bob's hair. And that's pretty much all that we got. Now, there are some people who did get a little bit upset over this teaser trailer, mainly because they didn't really get enough of it, but honestly, that's kind of their fault, because they were expecting a full trailer, but at that point, I think they forgot who Pixar is, because they don't just immediately release a trailer immediately. They would start things out by putting a little teaser, and then the trailer would come out. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the real Incredibles 2 trailer wouldn't be released this year. It would be somewhere in 2018. That, or maybe they would save it for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Who knows? It could be one of the two. But yeah, honestly, this is really doing its job very well as a teaser trailer, because the thing is, when it comes to when it comes to making trailers or revealing the first thing that you want to show to the public, like, the most important thing is the first look, like the first teaser trailer and stuff like that. Like, if you can grab audiences with that, then you can pretty much have them be sold throughout the rest of the film. In fact, a good example of how it could go wrong is with Sony Animation's Peter Rabbit. The first trailer, I think we can all agree, it was terrible. It gave us such a bad impression of what that movie is going to be. And even though the trailers after that one would technically be better, it left audiences with such a bad taste that they wouldn't really be interested in watching Peter Rabbit, or they would know as a fact that it's going to be a terrible film and that they wouldn't be interested. And again, it would really damage what little reputation of what Sony Animation has. So really, it just doesn't do much. So that's a bad example, but The Incredibles 2 right over here, this is a perfect example of nailing a first impression, because it doesn't really offer us much. Like, it offers us the promise that The Incredibles are coming back, and not only that, but we also see that the animation got a massive upgrade. Like, honestly, I feel like it's very noticeable between Jack Jack, what we had in the first Incredibles movie back in 2004, and the Jack Jack that we have right over here. You could tell that the technology has certainly evolved, and it has certainly matured where, you know, they're more free to go and put in more designs. So that's kind of the big promise that this trailer really is giving us in less than a minute. It's not just the return of these characters, but also a massive upgrade in the animation. And with an upgrade in the animation on something like The Incredibles, we would definitely be promised for something spectacular. I mean, like, The Incredibles in itself, even if it is like 13 or 14 years old, it looks phenomenal even to this day. But with this, like, I'm sure we're going to get something amazing. So yeah, I mean, this Incredibles 2 teaser trailer, it definitely looks awesome. And if you guys are excited as I am to go and check out The Incredibles 2 in theaters, all you have to do is wait until June 15th, 2018. Now, for our next story right over here, we're going to be talking about the 45th Annie Awards. Now, hold on there, don't get too excited just yet. They didn't announce the full list of nominees for all the different categories and stuff like that. What Asifa Hollywood has done is that they revealed the winners of the Juried Awards. So those are going to be for the special prizes that would be happening in between all the categories and the nominations and all that kind of stuff. So, if I may go and use my source here on the Animation Scoop, it has stated, Asifa Hollywood has announced this year's slate of recipients for its Juried Awards honoring career achievement and exceptional contributions to animation. And if you guys know the Annie Awards, then you probably know that there are several Juried Awards that they would hand out. First, of course, is the Winsor McKay Award, which is the Lifetime Achievement in Animation, in which this year we got 3 recipients. Then afterwards, we also got the iWorks Award, which pretty much specializes in the technical achievement in animation. Then after that, we also got the June Foray Award, which looks into the charitable impact on the art and industry of animation. Then afterwards, we also got the Certificate of Merit, which is more of a special little prize right over there. More kind of like a little side award, kind of like a mini June Foray Award per se. And finally, we also got the Special Achievement Award, which would be awarded to projects that are not necessarily animated projects per se, but they are specialized in animation. Like, these are little side things that honor the art of animation. So, with all that said, let us go and get things started by looking into the winners of the 45th Annie Awards in terms of the Juried Awards. So, first and foremost, the first Winsor McKay Award winner would actually go to Wendy Tilby and Amanda Forbes. This is a Canadian animation duo who specializes in making animated shorts in which their style, what they do, is that every frame of animation is actually made in gouache. You might recall some of their works would actually include Strings, When the Day Breaks, and Wildlife. Those of which are actually nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Short. And the next one that we have right over here, the next Winsor McKay Award recipient, is actually going to go to character animator James Baxter. Now, of course, some of you recently might know him more as James Baxter the horse in Adventure Time. Well, technically, yeah, it's actually going to be him that will be awarded. And the thing is, though, with the human James Baxter, he is actually very well known to be a prominent character animator working in places like Disney, DreamWorks, and many more. He is actually known to be the supervising animator for such characters as Belle from Beauty and the Beast with Mark Henn. He is also the supervising animator of Rafiki from The Lion King, Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Tullio from The Road to El Dorado, Spirit from Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and also Sinbad from Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. He is also an animation supervisor for movies such as Curious George, Enchanted, and the opening sequence of Kung Fu Panda. He has also helped out in making some animations for some hit TV shows. I have already mentioned Adventure Time, where he was a guest animator for the episode James Baxter the Horse. He also did some animations for Gravity Falls and for what seems to be the finale of Regular Show. And I guess there are also a lot of other projects that he has worked on, like even some computer animated films. Like, he also did help out in movies such as The Little Mermaid, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Prince of Egypt, where he helped animate Moses. He did Shrek 2, Madagascar, Monsters vs. Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, and many, many more. Oh, and he also did some of the 2D sequence, like the head of character animation for the 2D sequences in The Croods. And then finally, the last recipient this year for the Winsor McKay Award, well, I don't need to go and describe this guy. I mean, you know him very well. It is the SpongeBob SquarePants creator, Stephen Hillenberg. Yes, he is going to be also getting a Winsor McKay Award this year. So, with all that said, let's also move on to the iWorks Award. Now, this year, it shall be given to the software TVPaint. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Adobe Animate, or maybe even Toon Boom Harmony, but TVPaint has been pretty prominent recently to be the go-to software in order to go and create 2D animation. So, this year, it shall be awarded to TVPaint. Now, for the June Foray Award, that is actually going to be given to Disney and animation historian Didier Guez. And for those of you who are not familiar with Didier Guez, for many years he has been doing some great research in Disney history and also animation history, but probably his biggest contribution is actually writing the hit book series Walt's People, in which he would go and have a chat with people who worked either in the animation side or in the Imagineering side or in the live action side, just basically talk with people who has personally known or worked with Walt Disney himself. And if you are into animation history, then you should definitely go and check out Walt's People. At least just take a look at all the different books that he has released. There's probably around, I think, like more or less 20 volumes, but each one is just highly fascinating. Definitely worth a look. And then you also got the Special Achievement Award. Maybe I've already said this before, or maybe I haven't, but the thing is, the Special Achievement Award, it's pretty much awarded not necessarily to an animated project, but to a project that honors the art of animation. Like, for example, last year, the winner was Life Animated, the documentary about the life of an autistic boy who pretty much, his head is full of nothing but Disney, and he pretty much uses these Disney movies to, to live his life. That's where he gets his philosophies and stuff like that. Very emotional, very wonderful, a great documentary that you got to check out. But this year, however, the Special Achievement Award will actually be given to Studio MDHR Entertainment for one of the most beloved and biggest video games of the year, Cuphead. I mean, there's no way that the Annie Awards just, there's no way they cannot ignore a project that would honor 1930s cartoons just like what Cuphead did. And considering how it came out so beloved and, like, one of the best video games of the year, like, they gotta get into it, Like, I guess they kind of had that attitude of give that man a cookie, that kind of thing. And then finally, the Certificate of Merit Award. That's probably the one that is the most heartfelt that they're going to be giving it to. And it will be awarded to David Nimitz. Now, maybe you don't know who David Nimitz is, but he is actually someone very important to probably one of the biggest and most important people of animation. Where in my source here, the Animation Scoop, it said that he is the devoted friend and caretaker of veteran voice actress and Asifa Hollywood and Annie Awards pioneer June Foray, who passed away in July at the age of 99. And honestly, that the last one right there is probably the one that really got my heart, that really, after all the years of taking care of June Foray, and now he's going to be awarded, like, now this is Asifa and the animation community just giving him a big thank you, and I find that just incredibly sweet. And honestly, I don't think there's anything else that I could add into this. I just want to say a huge congratulations to all the recipients of the Juried Awards this year. They definitely do deserve it, and some of them I'm kind of surprised that they have yet to actually get their award. Honestly, this is just quite a great display, and just fantastic to see all these great people working hard in order to just make animation as fantastic as it is. But if you guys are excited to check out when the Annie Awards are going to be happening, well, all you have to do is just wait until February 3rd, 2018, when the Annie Awards are going to be happening, and each of these people are going to get their special Juried Award. Okay, so for our next story right over here, we're going to be talking about Klaus, which you might have heard about this before. It was a 2D animated film that's been in the works for a long time. It was actually developed by Sergio Pablos, in which we have just talked about him as the co-creator of Despicable Me and the guy who thought up of the idea for Smallfoot. This would be his directorial debut, and the story, well, if I may go in my source here on Deadline about this news, it says that the Christmas family comedy will tell the story of a desperate postman who inadvertently brings about the genesis of Santa Claus. So, we've heard about this, and we've seen the animation, what it's trying to pull off, for a while. And it looks so fascinating. Like, it really did hype up people over the fact that, wow, this is going to bring back 2D, like, great hand-drawn animation. Like, we don't have to just rely on television for our 2D fix. Like, now we're gonna get legitimate, good quality 2D animation. And right now, we actually do have some exciting news about it, because now it's legitimately gonna be made. We have a release date. We have a distribution. It's not gonna be released in theaters, however, but it will be on Netflix. Going back in my source here, Netflix has acquired the exclusive global rights to the animated family film Klaus, which marks the directorial debut of Sergio Pablos. The voice cast is a good one, and yes, they actually did reveal the voice cast here, which will include Jason Schwartzman, Rashida Jones, J.K. Simmons, and Joan Cusack. And right afterwards, they would list off the list of the producers that are also involved with this, and also saying that it's all made with Toon Boom Harmony. And final freaking Lee, because honestly, after looking at all those trailers, like I said before, they just look fantastic, and you see the beautiful crisp 2D animation that's being used in that film, and you see the postman's animation, it just looks so beautiful. And now that, like, this promise right over here that it is going to be made, it's honestly really exciting, because now this is actually going to be a thing. I mean, it is a little bit disappointing that it's not going to be released in theaters, because I know there are plenty of animation fans out there, like, they just want to have a great excuse to see great 2D animation appear on the big screen. We might not get that because it's going to be released on Netflix, but at least it's going to be something. At least we are going to have the promise that this is legitimately going to be made. And I mean, like, if it is released on Netflix, it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. It's not, it doesn't mean that it's not theater worthy. Netflix is kind of like in that awkward middle right now where it's not as grand or as big as a movie released in theaters, but it's definitely a massive step up from a film that's just straight to DVD or something like that. So at least it is something, and already we are seeing some great promises about this movie right over here. And honestly, a big surprise for me is actually the cast, where we do have people like Jason Schwartzman and Rashida Jones and J.K. Simmons and Joe Cusack. Like, these are very prominent actors and, very hardworking and a lot of great examples under their belt. So it actually is quite exciting to see them lend their voice in a project like this. So honestly, there really isn't a lot to say, but I really am excited to see this thing come to life. And it might not be until a while though, but then again, it is an animated film and it does take some time, and especially the fact that it is a hand-drawn animated feature where we're going to see 2D animation be done, like, of course it's going to take its time even at this point. But when it does come out on Netflix, it will be right at the end of the decade on Christmas 2019. Or at least somewhere around that date. I don't know if it's going to be at Christmas 2019, but either way, I'm honestly really excited to actually see Klaus come to life. And for this week, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. Ever since I have started the animation podcast, I don't think I have ever faced a news report on the field of animation that is very tough to swallow. That honestly, this is the hardest to go and face. And this really did break the hearts of many movie fans, and especially with many animation fans, considering the person that we are talking about. And the subject in particular actually does revolve around the sexual activity that's been going on in the entertainment industry, with all the numerous of claims of sexual harassment and sexual assault and all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, we know some of the big ones right now, like with Harvey Weinstein, Louis C.K., Kevin Spacey, and recently with Jeffrey Tambor. But animation so far, we only got one. Maybe Louis C.K. as well, but the most prominent of the sexual predators among them is Chris Savino, the creator of The Loud House, who thankfully is fired from Nickelodeon. So this week, however, animation got hit with another big one though. And some of you might be curious, well, who could it be? Is it another show creator like Chris Savino? Well, no. Is it a prominent voice actor? No. Is it a well-known animator? No. Is it a big-name director and producer? Well, kind of, but no. How about try one of the most influential people in modern animation? I cannot believe I'm saying this, but let's talk about Chief Creative Officer of Pixar Animation Studios, Walt Disney Animation Studios, and Walt Disney Imagineering, John Lasseter. Yes, reports have been coming out that John Lasseter is going to be taking a 6-month break from working after going face-to-face with one problem that really did came back to haunt him, which is his acts of sexual misconducts within Pixar. Now, this week, there have been a lot of women who used to work at Pixar. They wish to remain anonymous, but they came up front in websites like The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, explaining about John Lasseter's creepy activities that he would do, in a way that they would say that John couldn't necessarily control himself in front of the pretty girls. Now, what John Lasseter has been accused of is actually a few creepy things, like the kind that would be like, if you've seen it, then you're stuck in a really awkward position. When John Lasseter, well, he is known to be a hugger, but he would be holding on to women's legs and would be grabbing women's thighs, and also he would be kissing women in the mouth. Like, he would greet them and just like, damn, just smack on the lips. And yeah, like, women had to go and just prepare themselves, like, if ever they would be faced with John Lasseter. Like, they would be in a certain position if John wants to go and hug them. They would have to immediately turn their heads if John Lasseter is just going for the kiss. So it just doesn't really look good. Now, technically, these things are not necessarily as bad as many of the other sexual predators in the entertainment industry. I mean, like, John Lasseter is not necessarily as bad as Harvey Weinstein or as Kevin Spacey, as Louis C.K. Like, there's no instances where he would get naked and suddenly we see a John Lasseter penis. Like, that never did happen, thank God. I mean, he's even better than Roy Moore and all his supporters who apparently support pedophilia. He's not like any of those people, but that is not to undermine the fact that what he has done is definitely wrong and definitely creepy at the same time. And with that said, what happened, like, after, well, not after, but before he would go on his 6-month break, he did put out a memo to all of his employees, in which it is public here in the Hollywood Reporter, and let me go and read this to you. So, I have always wanted our animation studios to be places where creators can explore their vision with the support and collaboration of other gifted animators and storytellers. The kind of creative culture takes a constant vigilance to maintain. It's built on trust and respect, and it becomes fragile if any members of the team don't feel valued. As a leader, it's my responsibility to ensure that doesn't happen. And now I believe I have been failing short in this regard. I've recently had a number of difficult conversations that have been very painful for me. It's never easy to face your missteps, but it's the only way to learn from them. As a result, I have been giving a lot of thought to the leader I am today compared to the mentor, advocate, and champion I want to be. It's been brought to my attention that I have made some of you feel disrespected and uncomfortable. That was never my intent. Collectively, you mean the world to me, and I deeply apologize if I have let you down. I especially want to apologize to anyone who has ever been on the receiving end of an unwanted hug or any other gestures they felt crossed the line in any way, shape, or form. No matter how benign my intent, everyone has the right to set their own boundaries and have them respected. In my conversations with Disney, we are united in our commitment to always treat any concerns you have with the seriousness they deserve and to address them in an appropriate manner. We also share a desire to reinforce the vibrant, respectful culture that has been the foundation of our studio success since the beginning. And we agree the first step in that direction is for me to take some time away to reflect on how to move forward from here. As hard as it is for me to step away from a job I am so passionate about and a team I hold the highest regard, not just as artists but as people, I know it's the best thing for all of us right now. My hope is that a 6-month sabbatical will give me the opportunity to start taking better care of myself. Sorry about that. To recharge and be inspired, and ultimately return with the insight and perspective I need to be the leader you deserve. I'm immensely proud of this team, and I know you will continue to wow the world in my absence. I wish you all a wonderful holiday season and look forward to working together again in the new year. John. And with all that said, though, it is a better letter, a better response to all this than what Chris Savino did with his garbage letter that you could tell that he is flat out freaking lying. Like, this is better, and there is a little bit more sincere to it. But one thing that I do have to criticize in this letter is that John really does underplay what he has done. Like, pretty much the acts that he has done, like his sexual misconducts, like, he pretty much labels them as, like, an unwanted hug or any other gesture they felt crossed the line in any way. Like, I just want to let you know, I am a hugger myself. Like, once I know someone, once I'm cool with them and I'm comfortable with someone, I am a hugger myself. I don't just shake hands. Like, I would full on hug them. But, I respect people if they don't want a hug. And the thing is that if you need a 6-month sabbatical after the poor behavior that you've been displaying in the place that you work in, I don't think that would be an unwanted hug. An unwanted hug, someone can just easily brush that off. But honestly, like, you've been grabbing legs, you've been grabbing thighs, you have been kissing them on the lips when they don't want to. Honestly, I don't think I would call that an unwanted hug. And also, on top of that, there is another thing that John Lasseter has been accused of, is that during parties, he would be known as a heavy drinker. Like, he doesn't drink often. Like, I'm not saying that John Lasseter is an alcoholic, and I don't think anybody would say that John Lasseter is an alcoholic. But usually during rap parties or social events or anything like that, John Lasseter would actually be the one to be known for having one too many drinks. And especially with his behavior of sexual misconduct, it's not really that good of a mix. Alcohol and touchy-feely kind of guy, that just doesn't work. That's really a bad combination. But honestly, I think, like, if there is one thing that is harder to swallow about all this, like with the whole John Lasseter controversy, is pretty much the treatment of women that's been going on at Pixar, where they have also stated that it does feel a little bit more like a boys' club. Now, I'm not saying that it's with all men that they treat women badly. It's mostly with John Lasseter's behavior where women do feel a bit uncomfortable and they feel a little bit more vulnerable. And that really is pretty bad, where women do get the lower end of the stick when they do work at Pixar. And that's probably one major thing that the company has to go and work on. I don't know if it's the same thing that's been happening at Walt Disney Animation Studios, but honestly, just hearing how women are treated a bit and not being taken as seriously as men are at Pixar, that honestly is a bit heartbreaking. And I wouldn't blame them if they would accuse Pixar for being a place that's a little bit misogynistic or a little bit sexist in that regard, where like women would be in a place that would be more objectified than actually be treated as an actual artist or animator. Now that is something that they need to go and work on. And I think honestly, the organization Women of Animation really need to go and take a step forward, maybe have a discussion about Pixar in order to go and have a better environment for women in that area, or maybe just like in any Disney animation environment, to make sure that women are treated as equally as men, that they are seen as the prominent artists and creative geniuses that they are, instead of just walking boobs and butts. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing that I really do hope that they can go and fix. And in the case of John Lasseter, I'm going to be very honest. It looks like there's going to be a very strong chance that Disney is just going to let him have his 6-month break. And it is a little bit of a controversy, considering that John would just be taking a little vacation for 6 months and then go back to work afterwards. Because when it comes to all the sexual harassment allegations, we're pretty much used to, at this point, seeing the people have their careers be entirely destroyed on the spot. Like with Kevin Spacey, once he has been accused, like everything that he had completely destroyed. Like everything with Netflix, everything with all his other movies, like dead. Or with Louis C.K., when he opened up that like he was naked in the dressing room with ladies, like everything that he had, like his role in The Secret Life of Pets, all his TV shows that he had with FX, dead, right over there. But with John Lasseter, I mean, like I said before, it is a little bit controversial, considering that, yeah, the things that he has been accused of, they're not as bad as like Kevin Spacey or Louis C.K. or Harvey Weinstein. But at the same time, though, like, he would technically be a part of that category right over there. And some people don't think that he's not going to learn from all this. Like, he's going to be away for 6 months, and then he could possibly come back as if, like, nothing happened. So that's where the controversy lays. It's just from the fear of people, if they don't know if John Lasseter would truly learn his lesson. But it seems like Disney is not gonna go and let him go. Like, they even did release a statement right over here saying that we are committed to maintaining an environment in which all employees are respected and empowered to do their best work. We appreciate John's candor and sincere apology and fully support his sabbatical. So it seems like Disney is just going to let him do his little break, maybe try to go and get him better, and then just be all in open arms to see him return. And honestly, I don't blame him because, I don't blame Disney for doing that, because technically we are talking about John Lasseter. Like I said at the beginning, he is one of the most influential people in modern animation. I mean, this is the guy who directed and was the man behind Toy Story, the first ever computer animated feature. I mean, this man is heavily responsible for shaping what animation is today, the prominent film medium that is right now. And on top of that, this is also the guy who has shepherded both Disney and Pixar to be the best animation studios that are currently running right now, on top of being the guy shepherding some of the biggest animated films in recent years, including Frozen, Zootopia, Toy Story 3, Finding Dory, and so much more. Like, this guy is honestly too important to let go. At least what he does in the animation field, it is absolutely phenomenal. Yes, there are some little problems of sexual misconducts, but his contribution is just too big to just fire him. And rather, if you're okay with that or not, like, that can be your opinion, but that's just honestly how Disney would feel and why they couldn't let go of John Lasseter, because he's putting Disney and Pixar at such an amazing pace, and they don't want to lose that. I mean, sure, we've heard about the rumors that potentially maybe after John Lasseter would retire, or if he would be out of his job, then Pete Docter might be the one to take his place. But for now, if John Lasseter is still going strong to actually go and work, then they're still going to use him. So chances are, no, John Lasseter is not going to be fired. But at this point, if that is the case, then personally, I think the only thing that we can do is just hope for the best for John Lasseter. To hope that he really did actually learn his lesson, so that during the sabbatical, he would actually go and get some psychiatric help to go and, have a bit of an intervention, to go talk with people, to have a little bit of a discussion, to have some training in order to have that sexual misconduct mindset out of him, so that he could actually stop. And I think that's the only thing that we can go and hope for John Lasseter, and hopefully that when he does return, it will be a better environment at Pixar and Disney and the other places. I'm just hoping for the best for everyone, not just for John Lasseter, but also for the female employees working at Pixar, so that the pretty ladies, or the pretty girls as they would say in these articles, would be treated as great creative geniuses instead of, again, just walking boobs and butts. That hopefully their talent do match their beauty, but that we would pay more attention to their talent. So that's honestly overall that I can hope for, thinking both realistically and a bit optimistically that maybe John Lasseter can really learn his lesson. And I mean, for God's sakes, as he is one of the most influential people in modern animation, I can understand that this is seriously heartbreaking for so many people, that they would read this news and they would be entirely crushed to see that John Lasseter would do this kind of behavior. And honestly, I don't blame them. But again, the only thing that we can do right now is just hope for the best for both the women of animation, that they can have a better environment, and for John Lasseter, that he truly does learn his lesson, and that when he goes back to work, he can forget about the pretty girls in his mind and that he would just go straight to work in making amazing animated projects. But I am not done yet. There is also one additional comment that I want to make, in which an additional controversy actually did occur after all this actually did reported. And honestly, this person right over here is actually getting a lot more hate than John Lasseter right now. Because ever since these reports actually came out, that John Lasseter actually did some sexual misconducts and that he is taking a 6-month sabbatical, Cartoon Brews amid a MIDI would go on social media and cause nothing but an entire Disney bashing rampage. Like tweet after tweet, post after post, like all he would do is just nothing but slam John Lasseter, slam Disney, and slam all the higher-ups for what John Lasseter has done. Like, he just wants to see them be destroyed. And ever since then, the entire animation community just had enough. Just pretty much calling out on his bullcrap and pretty much unfollowing him everywhere, like on Facebook, on Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, even for me, I feel like this is just crossing the freaking line. I know about Amidi's past and how he would, go and do his work in a way. But honestly, I'm just sick and tired of it. Like, I know that I can be harsh on Sony Pictures at times, but my god, Amidi is nothing more but an unprofessional, idiotic hack. Like, honestly, he is not a journalist at all. Like, he is a major disservice to freaking animation in general. He doesn't care about the women that have been treated badly at John Lasseter. He doesn't even care about any artists working at Pixar at all. All he cares about is being a bully, to go and bash John Lasseter and to take down Pixar whatsoever. Just take down the higher-ups at Disney. I mean, seriously, the way that he would constantly whine and complain about how Disney is big and all that stuff, like, all he's doing is just bullying all the people at Pixar. And again, he doesn't care about like the condition of artists and stuff like that. He cares more about taking down people that are bigger and more successful than him. And that's what makes him unprofessional and a total disgrace in the field of animation and journalism. So what I want to ask you guys is to go and just boycott Cartoon Brew. In fact, I am going to make a vow right now that for the animation podcast, I will never be using Cartoon Brew as a source again. Like, if it wants to be freaking TMZ run by a guy with the same mental capacity as Alex Jones, then honestly, I'm not gonna go in. I'm not gonna support something like that. And if you guys are wondering, well, if I'm gonna go and boycott Cartoon Brew, then where can I get my animation news? Well, that is actually simple, because there are plenty of other websites out there that are actually run by people who are more mentally functioning than Amidi. There's, of course, the Animation Scoop, such a phenomenal website run by Jerry Beck, one of the most beloved animation historians. There is also Rotoscopers, truly is a website made for animation fans, by animation fans, and plus the fact that there are some really awesome people at Rotoscopers. There's also the Animation Magazine, in which, in that place, they have, like, decades worth of, animation journalism behind them. Like, not just on the internet, but also, like, you can actually get a subscription where you can buy the Animation Magazine as a magazine. Other places, like, Animation Views, Animation World News, just so, the options are out there, but probably my main recommendations are the Animation Scoop, well, Cartoon Research as well, because that's kind of like the spin-off website to the Animation Scoop, Rotoscopers, and Animation Magazine. As long as you go on those three websites right over there, then you can get more than enough of your animation news. I'd also recommend Katsuka as well. That's another good one. Just don't go to freaking Cartoon Brew anymore, as long as it's run by that freaking guy right over there. As long, like, if they kick out Amity, if he's no longer on Cartoon Brew, then that's the moment when it's actually safe to go and actually go to Cartoon Brew. Because I have nothing against Cartoon Brew, it's just I have something against Amity, where he has no care for the artist at all, and he just cares to be a bully to people that are bigger than him. And if you don't believe me, then look at the controversy with Justin Roiland and Adult Swim. So that's kind of the big lesson to take from all this. Just hope that John Lasseter can actually recover himself and that he would take away his acts of sexual misconduct. And please, never go to Cartoon Brew. Instead, go and listen to the Animation Podcast. And with all that said, that is all that I've got for this week for the Animation Podcast. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you can find more of my work on film-book.com, actually, you can go and find more of my work at film-book.com. All you have to do is search for MattSuperConnect or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at AniMat505. Now, if you have listened to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little bit of a favor and rate and review this episode? That would be lovely. And if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, hit that like button on our video and leave us a comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next week, see you later, dudes.